Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Steve with Sensus Fidelium coming at you at 9:43 p.m. January 21st, 2026, St. Agnes Day. If you're scoring at home, happy St. Agnes Day to you and yours. Hump Day. Welcome. I had to think about that too. Is it really Wednesday? The days fly by. The winter snow-mageddon, which will be ice-mageddon, really. We're not going to get any snow. We'll get some ice this weekend. We'll have that in the, it's one of the many links up there. I can't remember where. Anyway, hope you're having a good day. Mark, welcome. He's always got on Mark and the Funky Bunch to come in there and be in the chat room. So thank you, buddy. Hope everyone's doing good. Let's get right to it. Melissa Chin, I think there's 2 or 3 of hers on here. I think Trump's Davos speech should be put to bed. This idea that he had any intention of carving up the world in the spheres of influence, such that together with his buddies Xi and Putin, the 3 of them could rule like a triumvirate of emperors over each of their domains. Putin over Europe, Xi over Asia, and Trump over the Western Hemisphere. European leaders have misread America First and the Don Road Doctrine as a U.S. that only cares to secure its vicinity while abandoning other strategic regions. Trump's remarks explicitly rejects the passive or isolationist stance that would allow Russia or China uncontested sway, even in their own regions. And besides, if your home base isn't secured, how are you supposed to project power out towards the rest of the world? Other nations didn't sign up for the Western-led world order or to liberal democracy simply because it was inevitable or the moral thing to do. They did it because they wanted to emulate the West, as the results untold prosperity and strength spoke for itself. Anyway, let's see the map. There's the new map that's coming, new global map. Trump put it together. Me, Putin, and Xi. I thought it was funny. That's why I wanted to lead off with that. In local stuff, South Kakalaki weighs, I can't even speak English, eliminating, for my English-speaking people, the state income tax. So if you know anything about the Southeast, Florida doesn't have a state income tax. Tennessee does not. South Carolina currently has a progressive one, 2 to 6, I think it is the scale. North Carolina is 4.25%. I don't know what Georgia is. But South Carolina is looking at eliminating the state income tax over the coming years and just using any income from sales tax, which people go, well, there's still sales tax, but you'll never pay as much as you do with regular tax. They still have property tax. So they won't. I mean, the income tax they were worried about. There's some guys that are really going like, this will give you more liberty with your money. I mean, I think the representative from the county south of me has really been hard on this one. So the guy to the left, that's him right there. So yeah, another state. There's more states. More and more states are looking to eliminate their income tax. Good on them. And other South Kakalaki news that you will not see in any of the pro-life Inc. sites because they're too busy worrying about a march or movie, whatever you call them, galas, things like that, or talking about anything but life, even though they have life in their name. South Carolina bill that would ban abortion after conception introduced on first day of session. We talked about this last week, I think it was. South Carolina lawmakers introduced several bills on Tuesday related to restricting abortion access. This was last week. 6 bills introduced Monday and Tuesday represent the most aggressive abortion restrictions proposed in the state. The most far-reaching proposal, 6 bills were on pro-life in the state, and you haven't heard one of them from Lifeside News, Leela, Abby, any of these guys. What are you guys doing? I mean, why? You guys get millions of dollars to talk about pro-life stuff, and none of you guys can bring this up. I get ones of dollars, and I'm bringing it up. 6 bills in the far-reaching proposals. Senate Bill 781 would eliminate nearly all abortion access by banning the procedure after conception rather than after fetal cardiac activity is detected around 6 weeks. The bill is known as Life Begins at Conception Act. Sponsored by Mike Lieber of District 41, the bill maintains exceptions only to rape and incest up to 12 weeks of pregnancy. They always have that. Since most women don't know they're pregnant at conception and pregnancy tests aren't accurate until around 4 to 5 weeks, the law would functionally ban nearly all abortions in the state. Two separate House bills focus specifically on abortion-inducing medications like mifepristone, with those two, and account for more than half of abortions nationwide. House Bill 4760 would classify these drugs as Schedule 4 controlled substances alongside medications like Xanax and Valium. The bill creates a felony for possessing the drugs without a prescription, punishable by up to 5 years in prison, though it exempts pregnant women from prosecution. Penalties for providing abortion pills would range from 5 years to 50, depending on the circumstances, with the maximum sentence applied if a woman under 18 dies or suffers serious injury. The bill also creates a new crime of administering abortion drugs to a woman without her consent or knowledge, carrying up to 20 years in prison. House Bill 4637 focuses on private lawsuits. The 60-plus page measure would allow any private citizen to sue manufacturers, distributors, or anyone involved in providing abortion pills for at least $100,000 per violation. Family members could file wrongful death lawsuits with no damage caps and a 30-year statute of limitations. The bill goes further by making it a felony, punishable by up to 5 years in prison, to pay for or reimburse the cost of an abortion for a South Carolina resident performed anywhere in the country. It would also criminalize donating to or working for abortion funds, with penalties up to 3 years. Both abortion pill bills attempt to extend South Carolina law beyond state borders, claiming jurisdiction over anyone who ships medications to state residents or helps them obtain abortions elsewhere. A fourth bill, House Bill 4691, would permanently bar abortion clinics and their affiliated providers from receiving Medicaid funds for any services, including non-abortion family planning care like contraception and cancer screenings. The measure would codify in the law executive orders issued by Governor McMaster beginning in 2017. Senate Bill 778 covers the same topic. House Bill 4654 would create a new crime of coercing a woman into having an abortion against her express wishes, with penalties up to 1 year in prison and $5,000 in fines, or higher if the perpetrator is the father and the mother is the minor. Anyway, again, you would think the Pro-Life Inc. would be all over that, cheerleading, like, yeah, come on, baby, get some more. Why are they not bringing this out? If you could, if anybody knows these guys, because no one talks to me, please ask them if they have any clue, if they're still working, if they're still in the abortion pro-life fight. If they're not, I mean, tell them to change their minds or maybe, give the money back or something. But I mean, last I checked, they were supposed to be pro-life, but none of these guys are talking about it. Yeah, no, Abby was on Instagram talking about how Vance and Trump reversed title. No, yeah, I get it. That's all they're all centralists because they can't focus on anything else because they don't want to focus on anything else. Hence why when Roe went down, they had no clue what to do. They even said that. They don't know what to do. That's why there's still a March for Life in D.C., which the whole purpose of the March for Life was to end Roe. Wait a minute, Roe's gone. Hey, we're still going to have the march. Why are you having the march? Well, we want to end abortion. Where's that fight at? It's at the state level. Well, we don't want to do that. It's not sexy, remember. It's not fun. It's not, you don't get the glamour if you don't do it at the in District of Criminals. Even though it's not even a DC thing. But hey, South Carolina's trying to fight it. Let's not talk about South Carolina fighting it. Let's focus on the march for no reason whatsoever. Here's James Fishback. As Florida governor, I will mandate that all public school students come to school wearing a uniform. For boys, a white polo, khakis, and a belt. For girls, knee-length dresses and pantsuits. Strong schools are only possible with order and discipline. I'm liking this guy more and more. Somebody put on the bottom, what? No sagging? I'm telling you, he wins. I'm taking a U-Haul. Somehow we're going down. in property tax, in get rid of Israel money going over there. I mean, remember last week there was a lady got the mayor of Miami had the police come after a guy for just a tweet, not a tweet, a Facebook post that 15 people saw. Here's James Fishback again. Says he will implement a $50,000 Mandani tax on any New Yorker or out-of-stater who buys property in Florida. This is fantastic. 3 words: Florida is full. We are not a refugee camp for New Yorkers to flee from their problems. That is your mess. Clean it up. That is fantastic. We put Florida first. We were full. We took in 80,000 new residents after COVID, just 5 short years. And then many are leaving now. Florida needs to put the people who made Florida back in the front of the line. That is why I'm running to do. If you want more New Yorkers, Byron Donalds is your guy. After all, he was born and raised in New York. And within the span of 3 years of moving there, he got himself arrested twice. Man, this guy's great. He's banning OnlyFans. I mean, that's South Carolina does that, but it's like a couple $100. Maybe it's like a $300 tax. So it's nothing big, but it's still enough. Excuse me. Can't stop this cough. Here's Thomas Massey retweeting Rand. The new 1,059-page minimus bill just dropped. Guess what's buried inside? $5 billion in welfare programs for refugees. As Massey said, and when we vote against this minibus containing the $5 billion refugee welfare program, some will say, quote, why aren't you supporting the president? Fake two-party illusion. Here is McClanahan retweeting Kerry Severo saying Justice Alito's questioning on whether states could ban political candidate attire highlights the core problem with Hawaii's default ban on firearms on private property open to the public. Whether it is the First Amendment or Second Amendment, a state policing constitutional rights is clearly unconstitutional. As McClanahan said, only under incorporation, which is an improper reading of the 14th Amendment, neither the first nor the second should apply to the states. Amen. When it says Congress shall not pass, that means Congress shall not pass. It doesn't mean some city or some blah, blah, blah. It means Congress shall not pass. It doesn't mean anything else. But we got this cuckoo progressive idea, or corporation is a progressive idea. Progressive is another word for this thing called communism. So, but we've been indoctrinated since we lads to think 1A's here to the ice water hot, 2A's we're here to ice water hot, 4A, 3A, 5A, 6A. So if you have that and you think that, then why have a 9A and 10A? That makes no sense. But everyone thinks that. And then, like I said, last time when we were about with the police in Florida and Miami, and someone goes, "That's my I want to respect my Fourth Amendment right, my Fifth Amendment. I plead the Fifth." Was it my First Amendment right to free speech? Again, that's a Miami person talking to someone else in Miami. I didn't see Congress shall not pass, but in Florida state constitution, it's section 1, article 4, or article 1, section 4, free speech, right to speech, whatever. So it's a violation of the state constitution. If your state doesn't have a gun law, like Minnesota doesn't, I think Minnesota doesn't have it. That's on you guys in Minnesota. You don't get to jump into you don't go commie when you want to go commie. That's the problem we have today. Centralization of everything. Everything's centralized. Everything, man. Again, with the whole Roe thing, I'm mad if the states had governors that had any kind of spine at that time. Roe comes in. I guess tomorrow's the anniversary of Roe coming in. Before the ink dried, the state governor should have gone nullified. It's unconstitutional because they had to make it into the 14th to be some kind of privacy thing. Right off they had to twist it around. Hence why Justice what's his face Thomas and them talked about that, saying we got to revisit the 14th Amendment laws that have been come through because they're all bogus. It's all a lie. It wasn't even codified right. I had a story we talked about that months ago. I'll have to find that and use that again. I got a project I'm putting together. Here's a Mason good take. An even better take is Hawaii shouldn't be governed at all by a place that is almost 5,000 miles away. That's just common doggone sense right there. Why in the world would you? How do you make that? Listen, 360 million people. Apparently, if you play the DC rules all game, that's not representation at all. That makes it 900,001 representation to people to represent their representatives. That's nuts. And then let's look at locality. Now you're 5,000 miles away. You're 5 time zones away. It makes zero sense. But Hawaii was pretty much taken during the imperialism days as the queen, I forget how to pronounce her last name, said, by a bayonet constitution. They pretty much told them to sign or die, which is happening with Greenland, but they're not going that far. Massey again, the looming Orwellian automobile kill switch deadline threatening civil liberties. You forgot about that, huh? The cars with kill switches on it. When your car shuts down because it doesn't approve of your driving, how will you appeal? How will you appeal your roadside conviction? I've offered an amendment this week to defund this federal mandate. And let's say that goes through. Remember the flock cameras, the ring cameras, the CBDCs coming in, cameras all over the place. Now you got a kill switch. So when you drive somewhere, fellow trads that drive more than 15 minutes to go to a mass or anything like that, they know where you're going because these flock cameras recording everything you're doing. And they know where you're going. And then they say, hey, you're not going to church today. Killed, switch. Maybe it's now 15 minutes. Say you're not allowed to go outside, travel outside 15 minutes. Say your car gets shut off after it goes 15 minutes away from your house. You guys don't think that happened. Hey, remember 5 years ago, they shut the world down over the sniffles. And they're still talking about this stuff. They're still talking about kill switch. They're still talking about CBDC. World Economic Forum right now is talking all about the AI taking over the world and everything about CBDC, digital credit cards, the whole 9 yards. One lady's talking about banning in Europe £1,000 transactions. Here's Trump saying that he's going to give out $2,000 tariff dividend checks to middle-class Americans without Congress approval. This is huge for the midterms. Yeah, this is called a stimulus check. Remember the Rona days? He gave the same thing. He did the same thing. $2,000 dividend check, dividend and pay down debt. We set an income limit. We'd set an income limit. We can make a payment to the people without Congress. Wrong. You can't. You'd have to use an extreme amount of lemon juice to find the authority for that. But he's going to do it anyways, which is funny because I think last week he said, I don't recall ever saying that. So now he's all over the place. But hey, if you live in Greenland, you're going to get $100K. So I'm up for the idea. If anybody else wants to join in on that, I don't have the money to be able to pull this off. How about we all go to Greenland, become citizens for a couple months or whatever it is, and we get the $100,000 checks. We just come back home after that. You think we can pull that off? I don't know. If it's better than the $2,000. Would you rather have the $100,000 or the $2,000? Because he's going to give Greenlanders $100,000 to buy them off. But us plebes, so he's going to give $2,000, which either way, your money's going to go down the pooper. So you might as well get the big check, right? You want 98,000 more? I don't know. It sounds like a better idea than $2,000. Immigration. Let's get in the ICE part of the program. Immigration officers assert sweeping power to enter homes without a judge's warrant, memo says. Oh yeah, this was filed in the welcome to tyrannical Gestapo days. And highly unconstitutional, but who cares? We only care about that Constitution when we're not in power. Federal immigration officers are asserting sweeping power to forcibly enter people's homes without a judge's warrant, according to the ICE memo obtained by the Associated Press, marking a sharp reversal of longstanding guidance meant to respect constitutional limits on government searches. Forget about that pesky Amendment 4. The memo authorizes ICE officer, but hey, we're going to have people still standing up. I can't believe you bet we stand by ICE. Yeah, I hope they come to your house. Just like, And then afterwards, when they thank you, sir, I have another. I still stand by ICE, even though they're beating me up for nothing. The memo authorizes ICE officers to use force to enter a residence based solely on a more narrow administrative warrant to arrest someone with a final order of removal, a move that advocates said collides with the Fourth Amendment protections and upends years of advice given to immigrant communities. The shift comes as the Trump administration dramatically expands immigration arrests nationwide, deploying thousands of officers under a mass deportation campaign that is already reshaping enforcement tactics in cities such as Minneapolis. Here's Trump. Trump reverses his main policy. I'll let him say it because I've already mentioned this many times. Most people don't believe he even says it, so let's just have his own words.
Many countries opened up their prisons and dropped them into the United States. Those are the people who are getting out. And we have a lot of heart. They said, you got to lighten up on this. We have a lot of heart for people. They came in illegally, but they're good people, and they're working now on farms, and they're working in luncheonettes and hotels and all. And
his hotels.
We're looking to get the criminals out right now, the criminals. And I think it's very important. I mean, every once in a while you see a story, we take somebody. He should be out because they came in illegally. So in theory, they should be. But we're focused on the murderers, the drug dealers, the mentally insane. We have a lot of mentally insane killers. I mean, you can't even talk to them. It'd be nice if you could have a little reason, but you can't even reason. These are seriously ill people. You have a couple of countries where they were loaded up. Their mental institutions and insane asylums were loaded to the gills. They couldn't get, they're empty now. But they're filling up because we're bringing them all back. We know where they came from.
Okay, those mom and dads just going to work. Those criminals, yeah, they're yeah. He's not bringing up the people, because again, the sales pitch is the worst, right, Amy? And since he's not doing that, and then he goes out and saying, you know, all the guys that get upset about like, oh, if you're illegal, you're out. What did the boss man say? Daddy, as he calls himself. Daddy said that you guys got to calm down on that. We got some people that just do some field work and work in the hotels that they're illegal, but we're going to keep them here. So just remember, they're not getting rid of all these illegal. There's a reason why what's going on, and they're not even getting rid of all the baddies. They get rid of one or two just to throw some red meat to the TVs. They ain't getting all of them. They were here in Charlotte. They left, and the Charlotte sheriff goes, I had 1,000 warrants ready to go. Where'd these guys go? They left. Fury as Amazon Ring cameras are hooked up to ICE systems. Your Ring camera is an ICE agent. This could be put our Told You So Tuesday, as it came out today, though. U.S. immigration ICE agents wreak havoc as U.S. ICE agents wreak havoc on American communities. Big tech companies have been making themselves indispensable to the increasing tyrannical state. Among them is Amazon subsidiary Ring, the company behind those AI doorbell cameras that have exploded in popularity over the last few years. Back in October, Ring announced that its devices would soon be looped into a network of Flock AI surveillance cameras, which I told you about back in the day. That network, an investigation by 404 Media found, has been available to local and federal police and enforcement agents like ICE, leaving many worried that their Ring doorbell cams are now feeding into a government panopticon. Sure enough, as anti-ICE protests ramp up throughout the U.S., activists are pushing a grassroots campaign to convince Ring users to smash their devices. Doing so, they say, could help deprive the federal government of footage it's using to enact a campaign of harassment, arrest, and deportation. Smash your Ring doorbells, a progressive activist Guy Christensen urged his 3.5 million followers on TikTok. This must be Guy. Speaking of that, why does everyone have to get in a car, drive, and record themselves? You need to smash your Ring doorbells. Amazon owns Ring, and they decided to begin sharing surveillance collected from your front step with ICE and Flock Safety, weaponizing surveillance against the American people. Why does that guy have 3.5 million anyways? Was it his hair? It looks like he's still in puberty. If you have home surveillance or something, make sure that you know 100% the footage being recorded of you and your family in your home or wherever is only and can only be seen and shared with you. Chris is unemployed. Safety experts and tech critics have long condemned the Ring devices for security risks and privacy violations, not to mention their role in building the largest civilian surveillance network in U.S. history. Last summer, the Electronic Frontier Foundation warned that Ring was actively eroding civil liberties in the U.S. for profit. Those criticisms are seeing renewed urgency amidst ICE's brutal crackdown on illegal immigration. Though unlawful entry in the U.S. is only considered a civil violation, ICE enforcement activities under Once and Future King, President DJT, have resulted in at least 33 deaths, not to mention the unlawful detention of over 170 U.S. citizens. Your Ring cameras and ICE agents. You urges a poster designed by Catherine Brewster. Let me see. See if it has that thing on here. Dude, what is this? Bisky. I don't know what that is. Your Ring camera is an ICE agent. I got a lot of people on there. I have to check that out. See if I can another media place I can use to post things at. I'll save that over here to get that out of the way. On Reddit, a flyer declaring that ICE thanks you for your cooperation, alongside a photo of a Ring camera, made the rounds on numerous subreddits, urging thousands of upvotes. Yep, hate to say told you so, but yep, told you so. More people, at least thankfully, more people are calling it out. I mean, bigger name. If that guy's got 3.5 million, good. Need more people talking about that to get rid of it. There's a lot of people that have these Ring cameras. Again, goes back to the kill device, flock, Ring, all that stuff. You go outside unless you have stuff that you can hide from it. Wait till the other team, quote unquote, or people that don't like you get in power. Good luck. Here's Jason Bassler. Apparently, this needs to be said, but you can be against ICE abuse of power and against illegal violent offenders at the same time. It's called adult level reasoning. Wild stuff, I know. Because anybody that knows, I get blasted by people on that. Oh, you just don't want you just want the illegals. No, I didn't say that at all. I said you don't need to body slam U.S. citizens just because they look a different color. You don't have to go up and shoot somebody and it's not just one person. They've shot at many people. We talked about this a lot Monday. We have it on Friday. We got the video. Got many. You just email me. I'll send you the video links. I could do a whole show just on that stuff. Again, the burrito. Remember that? We did that last month. Sending people just, grabbing autistic kids and sending them to the detention center 7 states away and not telling their parents about it. There's a lot of problems going on. Jason again. ICE is profiling off-duty cops. Think MAGA will care about the thin blue line? Or will they just call it commie propaganda? Either way, it's just the illegals narrative. Just aid or grenade. Again, if you still just, it's like that Simpsons thing. Say the line, it's about the illegals. Really, you almost have to turn your brain off on some of this, and it kind of is because you've been propagandized on media, on state-run TV about all this, and just you got to hate your neighbor, hate your neighbor, hate your neighbor. Oh, that guy's an illegal. That guy's you don't know who is and who isn't unless they tell you on TV, and even then you got to question: am I getting told the truth? Because remember, that same TV that you think is the gospel, they're spewing the gospel message at you, 5 years ago told you you're going to die from the sniffles. And you can't go talk to your neighbor. You're going to kill granny. And you need to get a jab because you're going to die. Which is the whole thing with measles right now. Everyone's going up with the measles thing, which begs the question, wait a minute. Don't they have a vaccination for the measles? Oh, yes. You are required to pretty much, if you go to college, you have to have that measles thing. But yet, measles spread. So it shows you that jab, there's absolutely jack squat about it. Well, it's funny when you see those reports, they tell you, come on in and get the jab. Well, you already got the jab. You don't need another jab. The first jab didn't work. So come in for the second jab. Again, we have to think a little bit harder on a lot of this stuff. Twin Cities law enforcement raises concerns about ICE agents racially profiling citizens. Metro law enforcement leaders said ICE agents have been stopping and harassing people, including off-duty officers, due to the color of their skin. And they have been talking about this for a while. But it's all about the illegals, right? Border czar Tom Holland. Let's make this clear. ICE can detain a U.S. citizen if they have probable cause that this person may have committed a crime. They're talking about that guy, the U.S. citizen that they arrested in his underwear and pulled him out in negative 4-degree weather. So if he just thinks, which they can just make it up as they go, Sector 7, what does that mean? Get away with anything card. If they just have any kind of probable cause, the person may have committed a crime. Don't even know if they did or not. May have. So there's no certainty on it. As that guy says underneath, guilty unless proven otherwise. Anyway, let's see why the Pope is trending. Blesses two lambs. Oh yeah, it's St. Agnes Day. He's blessing the lambs. Cool. Okay. I was wondering, why is it streaming or not streaming? Here's a retired couple in Minnesota was called to see if ICE was sneaking around the Assumption Catholic Church on Sunday during Mass. I'll go ahead and give my voice a little break and let them talk to you for just a quick second.
Today that I will never forget in my life. And that is, we were called here to see if there were ICE agents who had the audacity to come and try to arrest and kidnap people leaving church on a Sunday morning. And so with a small group of us, I elected to see, and we did see cars speeding, running through red lights, unmarked cars, tinted windows, and indeed, Jan and I were driving around to see if these were ICE people surveying the church, and indeed they were. We turned into a parking lot and were greeted by approximately 4 unmarked ICE vehicles with agents who immediately stopped us and pointed semi-automatic weapons in our face, asked us to roll down the windows, threatened us multiple times with arrest. I mentioned to them, or I asked them if they had a warrant for my arrest. They said, we don't need one. And they continued to threaten us multiple times, pointing guns at my wife and I's face.
And we were kind of trapped because we had come in and they jumped, they came toward us right away with their guns. And so the only way out was really to back up too.
Jan was very nervous.
I was scared. I've never had two guns.
I've never had a gun pointed at me before in my life.
Anyway, you see more and more of these stories again. They just don't care. Yeah, we need to bingo, Gloria. That's bingo. We need to reduce government and spread the Catholic faith. The government that serves best is the government that is least. The government is the smallest, the government that serves best, whatever it is, the Jefferson line. Government that serves best is the government that governs least. Again, we're out of scale. Is the video from Abbeville Institute when it talks about is titled "Is America Too Big?" And we read it from on last show on Monday with Bill Kaufman, giantism, and the whole idea of everything's just so big you can't get anything done. And if you live in a state like New York, you don't have a say because New York City, yes, New York City is the only thing that rules your life. You are ruled by a city that you're not even wanting to be part of. Or if you live in Minneapolis, if you live in Minnesota outside Minneapolis, you don't have any say because Minneapolis, St. Paul rules your life. U.S. detained by ICE in Minnesota. That's the guy you saw getting that got pulled away earlier. Suddenly they just handcuffed me. They didn't ask for an ID or anything after they handcuffed me, they just took me out there with no clothes on. You wonder, it's kind of like, do they want? I think they do. I think it's part of the thing. They want people. I know. They want people to get mad so they can cause a reaction to have people go nuts and then cause the Insurrection Act. They're trying to bait that to happen so they can bring in the military and have martial law. That's it's really that. It's simple as that. I mean, there's no way a group can go in and go, you know what, this is cool. we can do whatever we want, violate any law that we have, and just arrest anybody we want just because we have this kind of, just because we say so. There's got to be a reason to the madness. I bet that is it. They're trying to cause a response, which anything like this will cause. Here's Justin Amash talking about the Associated Press saying immigration officers are asserting sweeping power to enter homes without a judge's warrant. A memo obtained by the AP said, we just read about it. Amash said, plainly unconstitutional and unlawful. And yes, it is, but they don't care. Soldiers at Fort Bragg, a military base, told to prepare for Minneapolis deployment. The Pentagon reportedly ordered off-duty soldiers with a military police unit in North Kakalaki to prepare for possible deployment to Minneapolis. Soldiers at Fort Bragg military base have reportedly been told to prepare for deployment to the city of Minneapolis. Again, this is a violation of posse comitatus unless you get the Insurrection Act, and then you get the military and do anything you want. But that's why he's using the National Guard as we before, because he can get the National Guard under the guise of the governors to bring it in, and you can do whatever you want. Now, he's just going to bring in the military. Again, violation of posse comitatus unless he gets this Insurrection Act to come through, which he can do anytime he wants. Not saying it's a good thing, but that's how the tyrannical game gets played. And then you got peacekeepers all over the place. It would be something to see if there's any soldiers that's going on. ICE targeted off-duty police officers in Twin Cities. Local police say. Local police say. Local enforcement agents, leaders in Minneapolis, St. Paul are raising concerns about ICE agents violating U.S. citizens' civil liberty, including those of off-duty police officers, as ICE has surged in Minnesota in recent weeks. Mark Bruley, police chief of the Minneapolis suburb Brooklyn Park, said in a Tuesday news conference that an off-duty police officer had been boxed in by vehicles. That's their MO, by the way. Knows like that couple and the other couple that was shot at with the tear gas, and the kid had to go to the doc or hospital because he couldn't breathe. And that other one that got shot into that ended up driving away. They all get boxed in by vehicles driven by ICE agents who demanded with guns drawn to see paperwork proving the officer had the right to be in the United States. She's a U.S. citizen and clearly would not have any paperwork, he said. Oh, so yeah, but I wonder how horrifying this she was. I'm not going to have anything. Yeah, now ICE is targeting 1,400 people in Maine. When you think of immigration, do you think of Maine? I think lobsters. ICE agents pointed the weapons at a Minnesota police officer who's an American citizen. I'll play it for you. I would love to see how terrifying this she is.
I'm Mark Bruley, police chief of the city of Brooklyn Park. Behind me is a bunch of amazing police chiefs that are here in support of a very short but very important message that we want to share with you. What you won't hear from any of us today is rhetoric of abolish ICE or that there shouldn't.
Someone had a great line. Oh, all of a sudden, NAGA is against the police.
Be immigration enforcement. The truth is, immigration enforcement is necessary for our national security and for local security. But how it's done is extremely important.
Bingo.
In fact, we have a long history of working exceptionally well with our federal partners, including ICE agents, and we have seen the best of them perform their job extremely well in the past. With that said, recently, as the last 2 weeks, we, as law enforcement community, have been receiving endless complaints about civil rights violations in our streets from U.S. citizens. What we're hearing is they're being stopped in traffic stops or on the street with no cause and being forced to demand paperwork to determine if they are here legally. As this went on over the past 2 weeks, we started hearing from our police officers the same complaints as they fell victim to this while off duty. Every one of these individuals is a person of color who has had this happen to them. In Brooklyn Park, one particular officer that shared her story with me was stopped going down the roadway. When they boxed her in, they demanded her paperwork, of which she's a U.S. citizen and clearly would not have any paperwork. When she became concerned about the rhetoric and the way she was being treated, she pulled out her phone. In an attempt to record the incident, the phone was knocked out of her hands, prevented her from recording it. The officer had their guns drawn during this interaction. And after the officer became so concerned, they were forced to identify themselves as a Brooklyn Park police officer in hopes of slowing the incident and de-escalating the incident down. The agents then immediately left after hearing this, making no other comments, no other apologies, just got in their vehicles and left. I wish I could tell you that this was an isolated incident. In fact, many of the chiefs standing behind me have similar incidents with their off-duty officers. This isn't just important because it happened to off-duty police officers, but what it did do is we know that our officers know what the Constitution is, they know what right and wrong is, and they know when people are being targeted, and that's what they were. If it is happening to our officers, it pains me to think of how many of our community members are falling victim to this every day.
Can't argue that. But you get the Team Party politic guys who just go Team MAGA all the way, and they'll argue that. It has to stop. That's the link for him. We already saw reports of videos of ICE activity are increasing in Maine. Lewiston Mayor Carl Schieling confirms the increased presence of agents in his city, while a flood of social media posts appears operating in the greater Portland area. Again, if I was an illegal, I wouldn't be going to Maine. I don't know. It's just too darn cold. I wouldn't want to go from here. This is obviously Iran's fault. Breaking: the Israeli army is currently invading a church of the Nativity and Manger Square in Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank. Wait a minute. Weren't people upset that anti-ICE protesters went into some church the other day? Everyone's yelling about it. Uppity, uppity, uppity. I didn't hear anybody. Nobody's been talking about this one. Anybody see a Catholic X talking about this, upset about this, calling out this? No. Here's Scott Bissett, the good old George Soros right-hand man and guy who lives like Peter Buttigieg, but we're okay with it because it's MAGA. At the Federal Reserve, independence does not mean no oversight. Since last summer, I have called for the Fed to undergo its own internal investigation, a call which has not been heeded. Both the American people and financial markets alike deserve more transparency from the Fed. Here's Captain Austin Fitz. Mr. Secretary, you are missing $21 trillion as of 2015. Missing money after that is secret. Your operation has been out of compliance with the financial management laws since the mid-1990s. How about the Treasury obeying the financial management laws and canceling FASAB 56 so we can see what is missing from 2016 to date? Then follow that missing money with the New York Fed accounts and the ESF and figuring out how to get it back. Is it sitting on the BIS balance sheet? Is it in space at the Gates Foundation? We welcome and applaud your interest in financial accountability, but remind you of that saying about people who live in glass houses. Two weather forecasters warn a potentially catastrophic storm from Texas to the Carolinas. By the way, the front is coming through tonight. They've been painting. If you look on Facebook, I think I posted one on X video. They've been painting the skies all day today, and they always do right before a front. You can always tell when a front's coming in because they are putting the lines are all over the place, and then the front moves in. They were busy today putting up some lines. Here's a massive winter storm to target over 180 million from Texas to New England with potentially damaging ice, heavy snow. 3 days ago, they were calling for 20 inches of snow in Hickory. They're about 30 minutes away north of me. Now it's just going to be ice. We're probably going to get like no snow. Now they're calling for 1 to 6 inches of ice. Snow is very limited. We're not probably going to get any snow. But yeah, a couple days ago, if you looked online, you thought doggone Snowmageddon was happening. Now, some places probably might get a lot of snow, but it ain't going to be anywhere here. Virginia looks like they're going to get hit by a lot of snow, maybe. Tennessee, parts of it. Where I'm in North Carolina went from 20 inches to we're going to get ice, which ice is a little bit worse, much worse. If they get power outages, are going to be big on that with people that don't have that live in areas that don't have I would just say power lines in the air. Where I'm at, the power lines are underground, so it's not gonna. We'll probably be fine, but there'll be plenty of others that won't be. Here, this was great. Big weather system coming through. Here's what we know so far. This is pretty much it because it changed every 5 minutes. It seems like you don't know what these guys don't know what's going on. I had something else up here. I thought I had. Excuse me. I had a Cheryl Atkinson full measure. There, full measure news. They did a thing on weather manipulation, if you believe it or not. There's the full inside documented efforts to control your weather. And yeah, check it out. Full measure. She thought they're talking about cloud seeding and all that. More and more people are talking about this. Here's Gen X girl talking about the best analysis of the CIA Mossad-backed Iran riots. Israel-U.S. crash value of Iran currency caused merchant class to protest, activated CIA Mossad-backed Kurds and MEK rioters to cause violence and pressure government collapse. Iran, with help from China and Russia, shut it down. There's the link to the full segment. I think this is from Judge and Freedom. Yeah. Yeah. Judge always has some good guys on there. Kentucky statesman retweeting leading report. President Trump signed an EO or executive order to bring back mental institution and insane asylums. Kentucky statesman says, just wait till they classify anti-Semitism as a mental health disorder. Did they talk about that during Brandon days they went after? Oh yeah, let all this stuff, this technocratic hellhole start keeping to grow, and wait till they use it against both teams will do it. Howard Lutnick, we're rolling into the World Economic Forum program of the channel of the show today. It's going on. It's day 3 of the World Economic Forum right now. Howard Lutnick heckled at World Economic Forum dinner event hosted by Larry Fink, descended in uproar from U.S. Commerce Secretary. Speaking of, before we get into that, let's talk about let's go to war pigs. Generals singing in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Trump says reached framework of Greenland deal. We got more on that coming up too. Ben Gvir, terrible human, celebrates as Israel destroys aid headquarters. U.S. ends military support for Syrian Kurds. Trump, Blanco Garcia. U.S. seizes 7th tanker carrying Venezuela oil. Man, that piracy is just unheard of anymore. Saudis to oust UAE from position of regional influence. Russian drone missile attack causes Kiev power outages. European lawmakers suspend U.S. trade deal amid Greenland tariff tensions. European lawmakers have put a hold on the approval of the trade agreement reached between EU and the U.S. in light of Trump's push to annex Greenland. Here's our boy, former Soros guy, right-hand man. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent boasts that sadistic U.S. sanctions deliberately devalued Iran's currency, and this is why Iranians took to the streets. And that was his quote. This is an economic statecraft. No shots fired, Bessent added. One of the most important confessions of the U.S. war on Iran.
And the same question with regard to 500% secondary sanctions or tariffs on countries who purchase energy products from Russia.
Okay, so two things there. There are Treasury sanctions. And if you look at a speech that I gave at the Economic Club of New York last March, I said that I believe the Iranian currency was on the verge of collapse, that if I were an Iranian citizen, I would take my money out. President Trump ordered Treasury and our OFAC division, Office of Foreign Asset Control, to put maximum pressure on Iran, and it's worked. Because in December, their economy collapsed. We saw a major bank go under. The central bank has started to print money. There is a dollar shortage. They are not able to get imports. And this is why the people took to the street. So this is economic statecraft, no shots fired, and things are moving in a very positive way here.
Phenomenal. He just admitted. Yeah, I can do anything about it. See, here's the World Economic Forum YouTube channel for this week. Here's the state address. Trump, President of the United States. He went on for an hour and 44 minutes. Good night. Let's see. Here's topics for the last couple of days. Where can new growth come from? Business case for nature. How can we build prosperity within planetary boundaries? Next phase of intelligence. I bet that's AI. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdullah Al Thani, Qatar Prime Minister. This is the wrap up for day 3. That's always fun to listen to. I haven't listened to that in a year. I might check that out when they go through the days. Conversation with Alex Karp, CEO and co-founder of Palantir. Anybody want to check that out? That's why 9.7 thousand views. Mark Carney got 100,000 views. Prime Minister of Canada. What it takes to build. Rebuilding trust in Latin America. Workers for the driver's seat. Special driver Emmanuel Macron in his Top Gun glasses. The day after AGI. Conversation with Scott Bessent. 40-minute long. Can EVs really dominate? Who is winning on energy security? Conversation with Satya Nadella. Scaling AI. Now comes the hard parts. I got a clip on that, I think, coming up. Ursula Van, you know her. Open forum. Which 2050 do we want? So yeah, you're not going to be able to listen to all this stuff. Wrote with power 44 minutes. Good grief. And then these are the live ones. This is not including the other ones. There's Javier Milei was streamed. Hour and a half. Breakthroughs in women's health. Conversation between David Sachs and Mark Benioff. Yeah, those are always good guys. De-dollarization or re-dollarization. Putting entrepreneurs, building AI for the long term. 50 minutes long. Let's see what else. China's AI economy. Look how many live things they had. You cannot watch all this stuff. Well, there's a ton of people looking at all this stuff, trying to pick out anything that comes up. American media won't show you this. Israeli TV Channel 13 reporter Yossi Ali went undercover as a priest for a day. In the first 5 minutes, he was spat on 5 times by Israelis. See, Trump repeatedly confuses Iceland and Greenland in awkward blunder at Davos. Apparently, he kept freaking out. He couldn't remember which one it is. They're not there for us on Iceland. I can tell you that. I mean, our stock market took a dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money. German speakers, you'd all be speaking German without us. That was funny. I saw a clip about that. You'd all be speaking German because I was like, who wants to tell him? World Economic Elite openly admitted that chemicals are being sprayed into the atmosphere to cool the planet and even onto the flood supply. One insider admits most of these operations are handled by the military, carried out quietly and behind closed doors. James O'Keefe went undercover to the World Economic Forum, capturing officials on camera, admitting to what's been long dismissed as conspiracy theory. A lot of work actually came from the military. One admits they do this all the time. It's actually pretty cheap to do. If you don't think this morning's sky. Let's see. That's how I do my prep. Was usually I have these right here. Yeah. Here it is right here. Just it doesn't show up a lot right there. It was much more clearer when I saw it, so the camera didn't really pick up on it. Here's Trump on Greenland. The deal is going to be put out gets us everything we needed to get. Translation, NATO bullied him. Here's what should be the dictionary definition of weaponized irony. WEF, World Economic Forum, is using music from the Pink Floyd's The Wall in their presentation about how our society is broken and we're all being tracked, profiled, and manipulated by algorithms and AI. Here's Melissa Chan again from the beginning. She was the first one I had. I took a picture of the slide at the WEF meeting, and it shows you why. It outlines the key building blocks that together form an operating system for the fourth industrial revolution. You haven't heard that? I bring it up a lot. AI is the central, most powerful driver. Hence, it's on top. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte stuns the world, says once the future king, President DJT is right. And Greenland from China and Russia. Trump is right. We have to do more there. We have to protect the Arctic against Russian and Chinese influence. Imagine that. Here's the Whitey House, based on a very productive meeting we've had with Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, who we just had a little bit ago. We have formed the framework of the future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. The solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations. Based upon this understanding, I will not be imposing a tariffs, blah, 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 blah. Further information will be made available, blah, 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 blah. And again, this isn't nothing new. Trump is a modern version of Teddy Roosevelt. He's a progressive. Progressive's a commie. They're all commies. Biden's a commie. Obama's a commie. Trump's a commie. You get upset about that? Trust me, I can prove that to you. And then you go look at what's doing this. Teddy did this. The imperialism of the United States in the 1800s is exactly this. The Jefferson took over, did a Louisiana Purchase, taught the Empire of Liberty. He also was okay with people breaking away too, and thought that people would break away because it can't get that big, which it has. Then you have the U.S. Taking over the Philippines, Hawaii, the Bayonet Constitution, going after Spain with Florida, Cuba, Philippines. Who else? I already mentioned that, but saying that again. Who else? Caribbean, or I mentioned that. Virgin Islands. Obviously, you got Texas, California, all that. Then you have Panama, which Teddy did that. Teddy made Panama secede from Colombia. Nobody wanted that, but Teddy helped. Teddy sided with the revolutionaries and made Panama break off, and then that's how you get the Panama Canal. And it's not like we haven't done this before. It's just in the 1800s. And then the 1900s, they just went to war all the time, which the Monroe Doctrine was all about just keeping Europe out of the Western Hemisphere. Kind of like we want to be left alone from you. But the thing is we weren't supposed to go over there. Now with this idea, we're all over the place. And now you got the North American Technate. Don't forget that. NATO is nothing without America. He's kind of trying to form a new NATO, it seems like. Milani, perfect. The Europe will close the U.S. bases, tear up the sweetheart trade deals, and just to make the message land, boycott McDonald's too. There shouldn't be any bases over there, but yeah, that's the way it is. It's the American empire. The sun doesn't set on the American empire. That is the blunt reality. If Washington wants to talk like protection is a one-way favor, Europe can answer like a partner with leverage, not a dependent begging for permission. And honestly, that tone is long overdue. When someone says, "You are nothing without me," the correct reply is not gratitude, it is boundaries. She ain't wrong. Davos evacuated as unusual smell causes coughing after Trump's crunch talks with world leaders. Did someone drop a stink bomb? And here's the North American Technate, which we talked about last time too. Here's U.S. Secretary and George Soros guy, Scott Bassett, says the U.S. must take Greenland because Europe is too weak to ensure its own security. Bring on the North American Technate. Bombshell revelation. Tight White House officials disclosed to U.S. that is finalizing a staggering $700 billion cash offer to buy Greenland outright. We have $39 trillion in debt. How do you buy how do you have $700 billion laying around outright from Denmark, plus $100,000 lump sum payment to each of its 57,000 residents, totaling nearly $706 billion. So what is it? You're going for $1.4 trillion? Again, 39. Yeah, let's get another. Here's Trump bragging about Operation Warp Speed yet again. Some people say it was one of the greatest military feats ever. I bet if you watched an hour and 40 minutes of it, you'll have some stuff on there. Trump defends inviting Putin to board of peace. We want all nations where people have power. These are people that get the job done, have tremendous influence. He's even asked the Pope to do this, to be on board on this. It's official. The 2006 cult classic Idiocracy wasn't satire, but rather an accurate documentary depiction of the future. Here's the poster child Trump at Davos today, a stark humiliation for the U.S. and the global stage. Well, this, he was talking. He was ranting and raving about Somalians being either stupid people and things like that. And yes, but Idiocracy was supposed to be a satire film, not a documentary. Speaking of the Board of Peace, Prime Minister and war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu accepts an invitation to join the U.S. President Trump's Board of Peace, as Daniel McAdams says, appropriate for our Orwellian times. The biggest mass murderer in the 21st century joins Trump's Board of Peace. 8 Muslim nations jointly announced to join Trump's Board of Peace: Turkey, Egypt, Indonesia, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Here's total insanity. Burma. I'll play a little bit. Why not? I'm already over an hour. Show you the good stuff.
Got it for a long time. It seems like 2026 is the year that's actually really going to take off, or people are predicting it. And I'm wondering what you're seeing as sort of the next big frontier there. What are the challenges that you see coming with implementing that?
So I think last year, most consumers started to use these platforms and these AIs to shop for things, for discovery, to look for, move off of maybe one of the search platforms or the commerce platforms. But then when they actually went to buy something, they went to the native merchant seller site. This year, in 2026, I think most of us will continue to shop on our AI platform of choice, but now we'll be able to buy natively on the platform. The buy button will be there. I won't need to leave, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Copilot or what have you. I think as we start to emerge from 2026 and look beyond, that's when you'll start to see a shift of real agentic commerce. Not just me pressing the buy button on one of these platforms, but me empowering an agent on my behalf to go shop for something, find it, and then buy it on my behalf. But for that to work, to your question, we need to invest in trust. You need to trust your agent that they're not going to go crazy and buy something you don't want to buy or spend more money than you want to spend. Merchants need to trust that if an agent is showing up, at their digital doorstep, that it's actually there on your behalf and you've empowered it. And your bank needs to trust that when they get a request to authorize a transaction on your behalf, that you really wanted that to happen. So for that all to happen, we are deploying AI-ready cards, AI-ready Visa cards around the world that empower users to set the parameters so that they'll trust their agent. How much money can you spend? What's the size of the transaction? Where can you go buy? For how long do I want that open to buy to exist? Things like that. We've rolled out a trusted agent protocol so that a merchant knows that if an agent is showing up on my behalf with a Visa card, that it's a real one, with a real card that's actually being empowered with the data payloads that, I just described. And that finally, we've rolled out a level of personalization so that all of us as Visa card holders, if we choose, can empower our agent to look at our shopping history on my Visa cards and use that to personalize recommendations and shopping experiences and user journeys and those types of things. So I think we're on the brink of something that is going to be very powerful. I think it's going to be a great time to be a consumer. Shopping is going to be easier. It's going to be more secure. It's going to be more fun. It's going to be more efficient. And I think it's going to ultimately grow commerce. And
it's going to be more secure. Anybody believe that this could be more secure when you hear that? Nothing online is more secure and all this, but yeah, I don't even let you buy anything anymore. It's an AI card. James O'Keefe got undercover footage of the World Economic. Oh, yeah, I already did that. I know I did doubles. Oh, that's because this is a 20-minute one. Here's the long edition. Here's the one I was looking for earlier. Sorry, there's the dim the sky thing. I just messed up on putting that. apparently, I don't know about that. I've never heard this one. I don't remember even putting this on the list. Let's see. Davos, under the guise of officially Sheikh Al Thani, governor of Qatar's central bank, promotes the rollout of digital currencies that will help to reach the goal of a cashless economy. I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and give you his words.
Technologies are transforming, fundamentally transforming the financial sector. A recent report showed that more than 100 countries, more than 100 central banks don't have a fast payment system. And fast payment system is very important for any economy. To make the economy efficient, for example. That will also help to reach the goal of cashless-based economy. And this is type of digital product. Technologies are transforming.
Here's what's it for Ursula coming up next.
To an extent, because somebody in the guard, can I ask why you want to make paying for things in cash over €1,000 illegal?
I'm not giving any interview, but thank you for trying.
No, I don't necessarily want an interview, but it's the people of Europe want to know why they can't use cash to a certain extent, because some would suggest that's about a control and the state taking can and can't spend the money, and that's a fair question.
Banknotes will always be available. We're working on this, and we will continue working on making sure that that's available for people.
But do you still believe?
End of the story.
One last question: Do you still believe that people shouldn't be able to spend over £1,000 in cash for an individual purchase? It's a simple yes or no, Miss Lagarde. Christine, the WEF theme this year is Spirit of Dialogue. You're touching me, actually. Shouldn't be able to spend over £1,000 in cash for an individual purchase.
They never ask these things. They never answer these things. Oh yeah, here's a good one. Trump asked Emperor Palpatine to join his board of peace. Here is Dave the Camp. I feel like all this talk of board of peace is meant to distract from what's actually happening on the ground in Gaza. Today, Israel killed 11 people in 4 separate terrorist attacks in the Gaza Strip. One of the strikes was on a car for journalists doing work for the Egyptian Relief Committee. Board of peace. And in Waters' web files, vitamin D protects you from the flu, Oxford scientists say. Yes, that's why they, above a certain line in these United States, you're supposed to take a lot of vitamin D supplements to get the thing. But I mean, when you have a manufactured virus like the trials going on, you can throw everything at it. It still won't work. Electric bills are already too high. Thinking about that later. It's too darn high. Where are we at here? I don't know if I can play it because it's ESPN. Pat McAfee says, talks about people going up the north, and Nick Saban goes, people from the South would never go to the north unless you paid them. You will never convince me otherwise. And that was a great line by Coach. And today in history, today is the birthday of Thomas Stonewall Jackson, born January 21st, 1824, Clarksburg, Virginia, now in West by God, Virginia. Orphan young, raised in humble circumstances by relatives, overcame limited early education to gain an appointment at West Point, enters in 1842, 1846 he graduates, commissioned artillery officer in the U.S. Army, serves with distinction in Mexican War 46 to 48, artillery in other battles, brevetted for gallantry, resigns U.S. commission in 1851, accepts professionship in VMI, Virginia Military Institute, teaches artillery tactics and natural philosophy, known for his deep Presbyterian faith, strict discipline, and Sunday school teaching for Black children. He was interested in the Catholic faith, apparently, too. He just couldn't get over a couple hurdles. 1861, Virginia succeeds, resigns VMI post, joins Confederate service, commands brigade at First Manassas Bull Run in July 1861, stands like a stone wall amidst chaos, hence Stonewall, commands Valley Fords 1862, Shenandoah Valley campaign, brilliant maneuvers, outwit larger Union forces, marches 646 miles in 48 days, defeats multiple armies, protects the flank, joins Army of Northern Virginia, 7-day battles, key role in saving Richmond. Second Manassas, decisive flank attack against crushes Pope's army. Fredericksburg, anchors defensive line, devastates Union assaults. Chancellorsville, daring flank march with 28,000 men, smashes Hooker's exposed right, greatest victory of his career. Shot by his own troops in night reconnaissance, May 2nd. Loses arm, then develops pneumonia. Dies May 10th, 1863. Last words, let us cross over the river and rest under the shade of the trees. Lee said he felt like he lost his right arm when he died. This is a nice little thing. Visit Southern Nation News. Don't believe the lies of the righteous cause hucksters. McClanahan put this together. And Wajora has a couple things on here. The following are uncomfortable truths for the righteous cause mythologists, because they say the UNS was a righteous cause thing. It's a myth. Number one, Africans created, organized, and supplied the international slave trade without any European involvement or direction, and Northerners profited heavily from the institution. Two, Southerners established most of the early abolition societies in these United States. You never hear anybody talking about that. Jim Crow segregation developed in Connecticut and was persuasive in New England in the 1830s. Northern commitment to anti-slavery was mostly political and not principled. They didn't want black people around them, and they didn't want anybody going out west. The Confederate war effort would have been impossible without Black Confederate support. Northerners exposed white supremacist and racist attitudes more frequently and fervently than antebellum Southerners, and most Southerners rejected anthropological racism as being anti-biblical. And the Underground Railroad was a myth created by self-righteous Northerners. Let's go with this day in history. What happened today? Probably people were born. 1976, first commercial Concord flags. 2017, demonstrations known collectively as the Women's March. Oh, yeah, I forgot about those. 2010, in Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, U.S. SCOTUS ruled 5-4 that laws preventing corporations and unions from using general funds for independent electioneering communications violated the First Amendment. 1997, Newt Gingrich becomes first Speaker of the House to be given formal reprimand for ethics violation. 1996, cleanup of 1.8 million gallons of oil began near Black Island National Refuge in Rhode Island. 1941, singer Placido Domingo, operatic tenor, was born in Madrid. 1924, Vladimir Lenin died. 1905, fashion designer Kristen Dorn was born in Granville, France. I have no idea who that is. 1793, Louis XVI, the last Bourbon king of France, was executed by guillotine in Paris during the French Revolution. 1506, Swiss guards first arrived at the Vatican as watchmen for the Pope. Anyway, God love you. Hope you guys had a great rest of the day. I'll do News from the Pew tomorrow with Rick, and then I'll do a Friday Clown Planet in the weekend. Anyway, have a great rest of the night. Thank you for hanging out. Here, click like, subscribe, jazz, all that stuff below. Comment anything you want. Say you like it, say you don't like it. I don't know. Tell me what does. Anyway, start a conversation. You do whatever. Don't forget, I also got a fundraiser going on for Sensus Fidelium. Go to the sensusfidelium.com page. You'll see the donate button. Please, I need some help. And what else? Got the app, sensusfidelium.tv. Don't forget the sensusfideliumpress.com. Anyway, God love you. Have a great rest of the night, and I'll see you tomorrow on News from the Pew.